I never expected my own life to become the stage for someone else's recklessness. My name is Nathan. For 7 years, I had invested in Olivia, in our marriage, in our home, in our plans. I believed that loyalty, patience, and trust were the foundations of any relationship. I was wrong. Olivia had been living a double life for months, carefully hiding the truth while expecting me to remain oblivious. The first hints were subtle. Unexplained absences, phone calls she hurriedly ended, laughter that didn't include me. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, clinging to the person I thought she was, but the evidence became undeniable. Friends, messages, and accidental encounters painted a clear picture. Olivia was unfaithful. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd anticipated. One evening, I received a call that would change everything. Olivia had been rushed to the emergency room. A minor accident, she claimed. But her voice carried a note of panic that demanded my attention. I arrived calm but alert, ready to ensure she was physically okay. The ER staff attended to her quickly, and I stood by, watching as the woman who had betrayed me in countless ways now appeared vulnerable, helpless, and dependent. I had to remind myself this wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries, clarity, and maintaining the control I had lost in our relationship. I checked on her treatment, made sure she was comfortable, and stayed quiet, observing. That's when she did something that stunned me. She asked me for money, for her bills, she said, as if my previous years of loyalty and trust automatically entitled her to my resources, even after she had shattered the trust one had placed in her. I paused. My patience, which had been tested for months, crystallized in that moment. She expected compliance, generosity, and perhaps forgiveness without acknowledgement of her wrongdoing. But I had learned that every action has consequences, every choice a cost. I decided then, quietly but decisively, that she would not manipulate me again. She would learn, as painfully as necessary, that betrayal carries weight, and that I would no longer subsidize her recklessness. The room was silent, except for the distant hum of hospital monitors. Olivia looked at me, eyes wide, waiting for a reaction that I deliberately withheld. I did not flinch, I did not argue, and I did not indulge her. My calm presence filled the space, turning the power dynamic on its head. For once, she was not in control. For once, I dictated the terms, silently but unmistakably. Olivia's surprise at my reaction, or lack thereof, was palpable. She had expected panic, anger, perhaps even emotional outbursts. Instead, I was quiet, steady, and unyielding. The nurses and staff noticed the shift too. The woman who had once commanded attention and sympathy now met a calm, measured presence that left no room for manipulation. She tried to justify her request. "Nathan, I can't cover this on my own," she said, voice trembling slightly. Her eyes searched mine, looking for softness, for the hint that I would cave. But I had long since learned that her guilt, excuses, or flattery had no power over me. I simply nodded once, acknowledging her words without granting the expected compliance. Every second I remained composed, the more her confidence faltered. I left the hospital room briefly, letting her sit with her thoughts. By the time I returned, Olivia's initial arrogance had given way to unease. She realized finally that the world didn't revolve around her whims, and that the man she had betrayed was no longer willing to tolerate her manipulations. The quiet control I exercised was more powerful than any confrontation. It forced her to confront her own recklessness. Over the following days, I took deliberate steps to reclaim my life. Olivia expected that her accident would reset the balance, that I would continue supporting her as if nothing had happened. But I established boundaries immediately. I handled her medical bills only as necessary for legal and ethical obligations, nothing more. I arranged temporary solutions for her needs without indulging her or giving her any leverage. Every interaction reminded her, subtly but unmistakably, that her choices had consequences. Olivia tried to provoke emotional reactions to appeal to guilt or nostalgia. "We've been through so much," she said, as if history could overwrite her recent betrayals. I listened calmly and replied only when necessary, always with clarity and precision. The charm and manipulation that had once worked on me now faltered. Every attempt she made to regain control backfired, only highlighting her reliance on tactics that no longer held sway. By the end of that week, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. Olivia's presence, once commanding and manipulative, now carried tension. She no longer assumed she could extract resources, forgiveness, or compliance without effort. My quiet, measured approach had rewritten the rules. She learned that control isn't inherited from circumstance or relationship, but earned through respect, consistency, and accountability. The days that followed solidified the shift. Olivia's confidence wavered each time she attempted to test boundaries. Requests for extra money, subtle digs at my responsibility, and veiled attempts at charm were met with calm, deliberate responses. I no longer reacted with anger or frustration. Instead, I exercised control through consistency and presence. She had underestimated the power of quiet authority, and now the consequences were unmistakable. I redirected my energy entirely toward rebuilding my life on my terms. I focused on my career, my personal growth, and my health. Each success reinforced my independence, and each improvement underscored the truth she had tried to avoid. I was no longer dependent on her compliance or validation. The very life she had expected to manipulate became a testament to my strength and resilience. The ultimate turning point came when Olivia tried to involve friends and family, subtly casting herself as the victim of circumstance, hoping to gain sympathy or leverage. I maintained my calm and let the facts speak for themselves. My actions were measured, deliberate, and consistent. No dramatics, no anger, no theatrics, only clarity and self-respect. Each time she sought to provoke an emotional reaction, she met composed silence, which spoke volumes more than any argument ever could. Eventually, Olivia realized that her strategies, deceit, manipulation, and charm, were powerless against a life reconstructed with intention and boundaries. She grew visibly frustrated, her once commanding presence replaced by hesitation and unease. Even the smallest attempts to regain control were met with subtle resistance that reminded her that respect cannot be forced. It must be earned. By the time the dust settled, our dynamic had changed irreversibly. Olivia could no longer assume entitlement, nor could she manipulate my decisions or resources. I had reclaimed the power that had been quietly undermined for years, without humiliation, confrontation, or revenge. The lesson was clear. Patience, consistency, and dignity can reshape even the most toxic interactions. I walked away from the situation, not with resentment, but with clarity. My life was no longer entwined with manipulation or expectation. Olivia had learned, whether she accepted it or not, that her actions have consequences, and that betrayal is never without cost. I had proven that even in the face of deceit, calm authority and self-respect are stronger than anger, louder than confrontation, and far more effective than any public spectacle. That day I realized the ultimate truth. The person who undermines your trust will test your patience, your kindness, and your limits. But when you take control of your life, when you assert boundaries and focus on your own growth, you can turn betrayal into empowerment. Olivia's audacity to ask for money in her moment of vulnerability became her undoing. And my life, rebuilt with intention and integrity, became the ultimate response. Unshakable, undeniable, and